The first is Matteo Bianchi. Matteo is an interior designer and business owner of Matteo Bianchi Studio. So over to you, Matteo. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Rekha, and thank you, Qandor, for this opportunity. Let me just share my presentation first of all. So I have the pleasure to break the ice today, and what I thought might be good is just show you a project that we are working at the moment. It's quite a challenging project. It's a property development, of course, and it's challenging because it's in the outskirts of Reading, which is not probably the most exciting place to have a property development. So we had to really work hard trying to find the story, a bit of a flavor, a bit of an excuse, if you want, for the property developer to put the properties into the market. It's been quite a challenge, but it's actually quite exciting. The project is about to start. Well, it's all designed. It's going to be built in January. So I'll show you some information. Obviously, I can't share everything because it's quite confidential, but I think it will really help you to understand how having a story, having a bit of personality, having a journey really can help any property developer to sell the property or rent it for a better price. So a bit about us quickly. I run my own studio. We're based in Peckham. We've got quite a big studio, we're quite lucky, and a big meeting room, which is where all the products are exposed, and a big meeting room where I am at the moment. There's 4 of us. It's quality over quantity. We've been around for 15 years. We've done 150 projects. Actually, we're going to start the 150th project on Thursday. And we've got 50 years of combined experience between the 4 of us. What we do is quite unique because we have a wide range of services, but it really, really helps every client because we are professional interior designers. We do residential and commercial. And we're very passionate about property development because it's a bit of a mix, really. It's a resi feeling with a commercial aspect, especially when it comes to budgeting. And my background is in marketing, and I have a big passion for product design. So this is a growing side of the business, which again is really helping property developers in a way, and I'll tell you later why. So today we are focusing on property developments, and this is a project I'd like to share with you. It's 9 houses and 5 minutes from the center of Reading. We have 4 3-bedroom houses and 5 2-bedroom houses, and with a big communal area to begin with. So these are the plans that we inherited from the architect who was involved to get the planning permission sorted. And initially, you would have an entrance. There was a kitchen dining in a smaller part of the ground floor, and the living at the back. And I'll show you later how we flipped that around, especially because from the time we got the brief and the time we finished the detailed drawings, COVID came around, and it was actually quite a good insight to sort of elevate the space planning around it. That's the site. It's just a nice piece of land, and that's what we had when we visited the site last October. So we really literally had to use a lot of imagination to design this. Now, when we went on site, we asked the client, just trying to have some sort of a story behind it. So, can you tell us about the area? Who lives here? Who used to live here? And the client told us that there was this, she heard that there was this gentleman called Fox Talbot. They used to live in the area. So that was perfect for us. We researched about this gentleman, and actually he's the inventor of the photography. Because we all think that the Lumiere brothers did invent the photography, but actually this academic professor back in the days did a lot of experimentation with reprography of photography. So he actually invented the way photography works. It just didn't copyright it. It didn't really lay the patent on time. So the Lumiere brothers did, and that's why we all think they are the inventors of photography. Regardless of these anecdotes, for us was fantastic because we could really have an excuse, a story, a way to design the property in this particular area of Reading. So the whole concept, and then we researched where this gentleman would have probably hang around. So we looked at where he was born, the places He would visit his old house. We dig into the archives, so we had quite a lot of information that we can build the concept around it. And as you can tell, there's the architecture we're used to live or perhaps visit was quite powerful. So the whole concept was to build and design the house of the future of Fox Talbot. In other words, if he was living today, what would be his apartment looking like? What would be his house looking like? And just sort of throwing some details or reminding us of what it would be back in the days with a modern touch. So we combined a bit of a retro style with a modern touch, and most of all, trying to really talk to the target market, who, by the way, are young families or couples who are trying to settle down in the area. So the mood boards represented what we're trying to achieve. So there's some details of architecture, different shapes, keep it very, very organic with little touches of color around. And if we can, we're going to have this sort of door at the entrance. If you can't, we're going to have the architrave with an oval shape. So it's just bringing some details from the past into a modern development. The sample board, you can tell from the mood, is quite is not really dark, it's not too light. It's very organic. It's got the personality, it's got a lot of texture. You can really feel that someone lived in the place a little bit before, although it's going to be brand new. So once we got the concept, the mood boards, the samples, we started to see what would be the journey from the typical interiors from that era all the way to our modern days. So they will probably be the corridor where he used to live, and then we can transform it with a modern touch, having a bit of a paneling around it. So the result will be to enter into a corridor which will have wooden floor, and the same wooden planks will just wrap around to a meter's high. So something very simple, something very cost effective. But then when you enter into the property, there is something different. There is a bit of personality. And then there's going to be an inset with porcelain tiles to give you the effect of the old-fashioned inset to wrap your shoes or the dirty shoes, really. And then everything is declined to the finishes. So again, this is how we work. So from the floor to the accessories, all the way to the spec. And when it comes to the kitchen, we got inspired by this image. This was actually his kitchen. So I'm not saying that we're going to have a proper old-fashioned burner into the kitchen, but then from this you can pull a bit of a story around it. So we'll have some tiles as a splashback that will take you into the old days, and probably to us this will be the mood where it would probably live today. So there's a sense of open feeling, there's a sense of open larder, if you want. And the client wanted to work with this company called Scavellini, and they actually have a range which looks very, very modern, but then there are some accessories that will really help you to get a sort of open larder feeling that we are after. Especially the solution is quite clever because you can just edit as much details as you want. And then again, those are the finish that we're going to. Once you get a concept right, then declining to the modern, and this is what we bring into the table really, declining to modern materials, it's very straightforward because we can use porcelain tiles, which are very, very hard wearing, with the colors that we are after. The bedroom, again, was quite challenging because how do you continue the journey of our superhero? And so we were trying to get a bit of verticality, because obviously when you go to the top floor, it's just a normal development. So the ceiling height would be 2.4, 2.5 if we're lucky. So we were trying to really help the verticality, which was really typical of those days. So the whole concept is just to continue the concept from downstairs in the corridor, and you have wooden floor, which will wrap the main feature wall where the headboard will be placed. And then again, the journey was trying to find as many desks as you could around the house. Those are the finishes. I'm not ashamed to throw IKEA in here, because actually I used to work for IKEA. There are some products which are quite good. So our job will be to mix some of those wardrobe with more refined handles and ironmongery. There are some clients who are asking us to furnish that property, which is another office service that we offer. And last but not least, the bathroom, because back in the days, actually, the tiles of 20 by 20 were very popular. And we looked at the future of tiles, the trends that are coming from the tiles industry. And I can tell you that the small rectangular square tiles, sorry, 20 by 20s are back in fashion, which is music for our ears, because that was the typical look where it used to live. So we got inspired from these images, and that's what it's going to look like. So we will have porcelain tiles, 20 by 20 or 200 by 200, and use a dark color around the bathroom. In this particular bathroom will be a dark terracotta look. And then Joel from Ocean Bathroom is helping us to specify all the sanitary ware around it. Now back to and finishing on the same layout. So what we did, and this is how we helped the clients, was to completely swap the living area and kitchen area around it, because we realized if I were to buy as a young family the house, I would probably spend 90% of my time socializing in the kitchen area. So we designed this open plan that will look all the way to the garden. And then again, COVID came around. So that was actually a very useful insight, because we had to start thinking where people would work from home a little bit more. So the living has a very comfortable sofa, a proper TV area, but then again, the desk is crucial. And personally, I like to work from this desk, and I can see the background will look very slick when I have my Zoom meetings. And probably my wife will have the same meeting, or will probably work from this table in the kitchen. And when we're all done, we're probably going to want to interact into the island. So again, this is a combination between having a strong concept and work with the right space planning around it. And then I'll show you just one room, or just one floor on the 3 bedrooms. And you can see from here how we're going to replicate those square tiles throughout. And also here, there's a bit of a luxury, because we'll have a walk-in dressing area and an ensuite. And we're working really hard to make this innovation a bit more interesting. So in a nutshell, this is my top tip really for any developer who wants to bring something a bit different for their properties, which ultimately will sell a bit more. So, and this is also the way we work. First of all, trying to listen, or perhaps discover or research what's in the area. If you're not lucky enough to have your property in the heart of London, or maybe when there is an area with got a lot of personality, well, maybe there is a way to do that. You just need to really listen to the surrounding, or probably find that little excuse or that little hook that will help to sell your property. Then design around it. And most of all, don't forget to inspire. Don't forget to push the boundaries a bit more, because that little bit of inspiration, that little bit of a difference is probably what your buyers will look for. And I hope I didn't go too fast, or actually I didn't run out of time. Any questions, anyone?
Thanks, Matteo. I've got one. Have you noticed this year, I suppose, has there been quite a dramatic shift in what your clients are asking for when it comes to interiors and designs as a result of what's happened this year?
It's been a very positive shift, because they understand the space a bit more. Obviously, we're here to help them to understand space, but also they're very clear on what a proper residential space should look like. So I find it a bit easier to liaise with them, because we are kind of speaking the same language at the moment. And also there's a positive shift in the sense of understanding that a good space is just not negotiable anymore. So I would say it's been a really, really good thing for our industry. A, for education, and B, for understanding each other a bit more.
Yeah, okay. Open up to the group. Anybody have any questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello. Yes. Really nice presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. My question is about how you usually present your concepts. So in terms of 3D modeling, do you ever use any CGIs or 3D models to introduce your concepts together with all the documentation you just showed us?
Yeah, if the client requires, we do. We tend to use 200 lot of sketches just to get the message across to clients. And we love sketching, and it's just not after that you'll have the drawings to support every elevation and the details. But yeah, we do offer. Most of the time, clients actually don't need that, but we do offer if required. I think if you got a strong concept and a very linear journey, the message will get across quite clearly, even for those clients that actually don't understand space and the drawings in a good way.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? I'm interested to know what your background is, Matteo. Is that fabric?
No, marketing. I used to work for.
No. The background behind you on your.
It's a meeting, Robert. This is a massive board. This is how we write our ideas and our strategy for the year. I just wiped it down because I'm thinking about the next year's strategy for the studio.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. Well, it's not a question as much. It's more just say, love the presentation, and I think the provenance of a development, especially when selling it. Buyers love a story. They love a heritage, a connection to a building that is more than just square footage and location. It will always add value. And I think, some of the research you did and the understanding of the area and the building, I think will, apart from it looking brilliant with a modern day twist, will ultimately, reflect it in the brand, and that will really kind of add the property value to other developments in the area compared to other developments in the area. So yeah, really good.
It's a very fair point, because we've done developments in central London, and we did one in Baker Street, and the area was just phenomenal. You just had to look inside the building, very, very old building, and then it was kind of easier to work around it. And then another one in North London where the area was up and coming. But with this project was really, really challenging, because we just really had nothing to stick with. And but I have to say also the client was really open-minded to go with it. And as a matter of fact, she sold already everything to be based on the concept. That's the outcome so far.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it just makes it stand out.
Yeah,
and any added value or any added history that you can use in order to leverage that, then it will gain you advantage against everything else. So yeah, really good. Yeah, really
you made a very good point. It's about selling a story. I mean, from branding to space to
your marketing background is is of no surprise the way you presented it. And I think the buyers want to tell the people that they've, when they have a dinner party, they want to tell their story. They want to pass that on. It's not just bricks and mortar. And I appreciate it's not always possible, as you say, but whenever there is that history and something to take advantage of, then yeah, certainly worth grabbing with both hands for sure.
Thanks, Chris. Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
I would say it's Dan. Hi, thanks very much. I really enjoyed that. Do you think developers are more inclined nowadays to turn to interior designers to add this level of design and the story to developments? Because obviously it comes at a cost, which I understand the value of, but do you find it difficult to explain that value to developers, or is it are you not finding that a problem?
Not really, because the developers who will ask for a quote, or to understand that interior design professional will really is that delta, that price difference that will actually be compensated much more. So the cost of the design actually does multiply the effect of sales. So I think if the developer is ready and understand the value of it, it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion. So yeah, we don't really find it difficult.
But do you think that developers are that way inclined nowadays, or do you think more are they in the minority, those developers who come to you for that kind of service, or are they queuing up around the block?
I think they are, and I think they should, because
Yes.
it's changed, and the clients are, as I said before, they really know what this space is all about. They really appreciate finishes. They understand that there is room to have it to have a better place. Yeah, I think.
Is that driven by the buyer, rather than the developer? Do you think?
Yes, yeah.
The people who want to move in have
also
got a high expectation of quality.
The developer working at the moment, she has a clear vision. She told me from the beginning, I want to stand out from any other developer.
Yeah.
And this is done, and she's looking for another plot of land. So I think it goes down to the level of development you want to do, and also the vision of that particular developer.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think it's a total waste of potential not to do it. That's obvious to me, but that's I don't know whether that's obvious to everybody. So, but it looks great. I was really impressed.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. I'm going to move on because I'm just mindful that we've coming up to the end of our time. Thanks very much, Matteo. That was very, very interesting indeed. Please stay on because I'm sure you might have some questions later on as well. Over to our next speaker of today, who is going to be talking to us about sustainability, sustainable design, and sustainable products as well, and why that has become or should be very important for us to consider. So Linda Rosen owns Edge Design Studio. Linda, hi, welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, my name is Linda Rosen and I run Edge Design Studio. And we work with holistic and sustainable design, and mainly for property developers and on commercial projects. I wanted to include so many things in my presentation, so it is a lot of text, but you're getting the slides afterwards, so don't worry if it looks like it is quite a lot of information. But I think when it comes to sustainability, most developers or most people in general think about energy efficiency. But actually it is so much more than that. It is about the materials, about the toxins. It is also about mental health, nourishment, and the functionality of the space. So yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Yes. So yeah, in just before lockdown, the first one, I decided to go in a sustainable direction and yeah, focus on designing with the future in mind, basically, because if we are going to provide a planet for our children and grandchildren, we need to think about that. So if we are starting with a little bit of statistics, so since the 1960s, we have introduced loads of chemicals into the built environment, and many of them are introduced because it's speeding up the production process, or it's easier to apply, and they are making the materials behave. And many of them we are not actually aware of. And 95% of all construction materials today actually contain some kind of petrochemical content. It is also because it is cost effective. So over the last 25 years, we have ADHD increased by 400%. We had autism increased by 1,500%. And yeah, well, can this actually have something to do with our toxic lifestyles? And that relates both to what we are putting into the body, what we are surrounding ourselves with, and also the stress level, of course. And yes, I am Scandinavian and vegan, and I do love animals, and that's why I don't eat them, wear them, or use them in my designs. Also, most products, or pretty much all products that are derived from animals, are highly toxic as well. So if we go for more natural ingredients and natural materials, and that's also better for the health. Yes, I am also vegan design organization certified, and we do support PITA, Business Friends. I am at the moment going through the International Well Building Institute, and I think this is definitely the new way we are going to look at the design. So they will include concepts as air, water, light, nourishment, movement, sound, material, body and mind, energy efficiency, community, and innovations. So it is like we're looking at design from a very different perspective. And I think especially in today's situation, this is very important. So what do you think about when you hear sustainable design? If we can just open up to a question here.
Mainly about materials, construction materials, using sustainable construction materials, as well as increasing the insulation of a building.
Probably
and the technology which can contain the energy dissipation.
Yeah. Okay, great. let's move on. I'm not super comfortable with this sharing screens and stuff. Let's see. Okay, yes. So yes, when we're looking at sustainable design, as I mentioned earlier, it is a lot more than only about energy efficiency. So you have to look at the materials, about protecting the environment and creating a healthy environment, both for the people living in the property and around the property. Look at the waste consumption, recycling, and all of these kind of things as well. So it's not only about building an energy efficient home and calling it an eco house, because that is actually greenwashing, because it's a lot more to it. Well, benefits, there are so many benefits of it, not just a cost reduction in operating costs, but also it helps to a happy planet, less pollution, better health, and reduced carbon emissions. So something that has been increasing in popularity over the last years is biophilic design. What is that, and how can that actually improve our health and well-being? So we have three main categories when it comes to biophilic design, and that is the direct experience with nature that can come in form of plants, take plants inside, or wooden flooring. It can be a natural material. You also have indirect experience of nature, which refers to a picture of an animal or a picture of an ocean, because that is calming for the mind just to look at, actually. And then we have experience of space and place, and that comes back to the functionality of the space, but also it goes back all the way to when we were cavemen, and the sense for refugee. So, for example, if you're having a home office, I know that many people are taking the desk, move it against the wall, and they are sitting there with the room behind them. Actually, you cannot see the danger if you're having something coming towards you from behind. So in order to feel safe and to have a good working environment, you should always have a solid wall behind you and a bit of open space in front of you, so that you can also see all the ways of escape. And that is related to biophilic design as well. And you have many health benefits, and just bringing in plants that can purify the air can actually reduce stress and anxiety, and you do feel that connection with nature. You also get enhanced attention and concentration, and many positive effects of it. So what are the dirty secrets in our homes? They are many, and I could not include all of them. So let's start with paint is one of them. So paint manufacturers do not have to declare all the ingredients in their paint. So even if they do say that they are eco-friendly, they might not be. So when it comes to petrochemical paint, it can contain more than 150 substances. And if they are under a specific amount, they don't have to declare it, basically. So it also creates like a plastic film on the walls that can trap mold and moisture, and yeah, they put in loads of chemicals. And sometimes only to reduce the VOCs in paint, they can add other chemicals without even telling us. That's why a natural paint is always the best solution, because it is not off-gassing, it is biodegradable, it is made from nature, basically. So when you are buying paint, always ask for all the ingredients. Don't be okay with some of them, ask for all of them, because many of the paints out there, or most of the paints out there, are actually harmful for our health. And if anyone wants to know later on, yes, I do have some companies I can recommend for you as well. So when it comes to flooring, so if it's made of wood, it must be sustainable. That's not really true. So yeah, I wanted to include a lot more, but yes, I thought I'll include some of the most toxic components we are using in flooring. And yeah, we might put in a beautiful engineered wooden floor, and then it actually contains quite a lot of glue and quite a lot of chemicals. So the worst ones are epoxies, polyurethanes, glues, and adhesives. And yeah, glues are basically yeah, used in many of what do you call it, like the particle board composite products. So everything from kitchens to wardrobes can be made out of that, and together with polyurethanes as well. And also some of the epoxies and epoxy flooring can contain BPA. So yeah, this obviously has an effect of our health. And yeah, one of the worst chemicals here are actually formaldehyde, because we can see it in pretty much everything. So when we are looking at the flooring, yeah, look at the glues and the ingredients and ask for all of them as well. And if it is a company who are aware of this, they will be able to give you a specification sheet on exactly what kind of VOC emissions their products do contain. Okay, so fabric is actually one of the worst water polluters in the world. And yeah, common chemicals in fabric, there are many of them: formaldehyde, lead, mercury, chromium. And even if you take a raw material that is organic, let's say we take organic cotton and we use a conventional dyeing process to dye the fabric, it can contain up to 30% of its weight in chemicals, and those chemicals can't always be washed away. So that is actually what we are sleeping on: the bed, the sheets, the fabric on the chairs, on the sofa, for example. And this is also like a big problem in countries like India and China, where you have the tanneries, and also it's not very ethical, and the workers are exposed to toxins, they are getting sick, they don't have any protective equipment and are normally barefoot and working with all of these chemicals with their bare hands. So when we are actually going into the store here and thinking, oh, this looks good, or yeah, I'd like that one, have a little look and find out how the product is being made and where it is made. Because obviously we don't directly want to support these kind of yeah, destruction of the planet. And and for the health of people. So what to look for when it comes to fabrics, that goes both for clothing, it can be curtains, it can be sheets, it can be pillows. It's GOT certification, and GOT stands for Global Organic Textile Organization, and Oecotex, because they have different standards and regulations, and they are also a third-party certifier that they have special criteria, basically. So if you buy a product that is GOT certified, for example, they need to clean the water before washing it out in the ocean. And also there are many chemicals that they are not allowed to use at all. So that can be very good for you to know. Then the worst of them all, I think, is actually what we sleep on, our mattresses. They are normally made of polyurethane or memory foam or synthetic latex. This is a lot of text, so you can read it afterwards. But basically, these materials are off-gassing, and that is actually affecting our health. And imagine what this is doing to an infant if you're putting an infant on a polyurethane mattress. And this is happening basically because it's cheaper, and we don't have any good regulations for it. So I believe that if the government really would like to save some lives in this country, they would take in stricter regulations when it comes to chemicals and fast food instead of COVID. But when it comes to mattresses, polyurethane is really common, and before this came to market, we used natural latex. But then you also have a lot of greenwashing in the industry, and people are saying this is natural latex, but actually it might be 70% synthetic latex. So it's really difficult for a consumer today to make good choices for their health, because natural latex, of course, that sounds like should be natural. So what you need to look for there is organic latex, or if it is stated to be 100% natural. And otherwise it will be containing loads of flame retardants and other bits that are seriously damaging our health. So, case studies. Well, first of all, I think these are probably the most important things for you to know. And also, of course, I could speak about building materials and everything else, but I don't have enough time for it. So I do have a couple of case studies that I wanted to go through very quickly with you. So this one is a modular 5-unit scheme in Putney. And we had to create some smart solutions because the apartments are really small. So the bed, for example, that can be folded up into the wall. You can hide the bedside tables. The wall in between can be folded in, and you will be able to drag out a desk as well. And I think this is going to become more common, especially in central London, where the space can be tight, and you might have to work from home. You might have to do other bits at home as well. And this is a perfect space if you actually want to host a dinner or something like that. You can fold up the bed and you can transform the space to something else. We have also used quite a lot of natural materials here and quality materials. For the bathroom, we have gone with Dawnract, and Joe from Ocean Bathrooms has helped us to put that together. And yeah, wooden flooring, of course, without formaldehyde, without any nasty glues. And for the bookshelves, we are looking to use something called EcoBoard, that instead of using glue, it's pressured under very high temperature. And also we do have some high-tech solutions for this one. When it comes to built-in Alexa, we have, you can probably see the heating panels in the ceiling. That's actually infrared heating. that is heating up the body instead of the air. And then the next case study, a quick one, is actually for Ocean Bathrooms and their new showroom that opened a couple of weeks ago. So Joe is actually one of my collaboration partners, and I think that is also the new way of working with people. If you can't do everything yourself, you partner up with trustworthy people. And yeah, so what we helped with here was the concept, and we brought in some biophilic design, natural materials. We looked at pretty natural color scheme and also worked with scent, and that is usually forgotten when it comes to design. And I think that's quite important, and especially when it comes to creating an experience for people. And I think that's something that Christian is going to talk a little bit more about later. But yeah, so we are going to replace the plastics to real plants, of course, because yeah, they don't really have any effect. So I do believe that sustainability is the new luxury, and yeah, I wanted to include a lot more for you, but you can take the slides and you can have a look at them and read all of this later on, and you can also ask me questions, of course. And I believe this is definitely the way to go if we want to have a planet to live on in like 20 years. And I think this can also be a very good USP for developers. And if you combine this with the story that Matteo was talking about, yeah, of course you have good selling points. And I think people are definitely going to be willing to pay a little bit more for their homes if they are actually healthy for them. And I think this comes down to educating people, because most people don't really know about all the chemicals we are surrounded with. So yes, well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Linda. Really good. Any questions from the audience?
I have a question.
Christian, yeah, go for it.
To have a green design incorporated into development, how much more does it normally require for funding than just going to construction regular with normal products?
Well, it depends on the project and what you're looking at. It's the same, like, okay, how much is a 2-bedroom flat in London? I don't know.
Well, no, because I worked with a company, Coco Mat, for example, and their mattresses are known to be green, eco-friendly, and they're made of the coconut grind.
Yeah, sorry, did you ask about the mattress?
No, I'm just talking in general about the mattress. I know about the mattress because I worked with them, and they have a whole green living with them. But for example, their mattress costs 20,000 versus a regular mattress that costs what, 500, maybe 1,000. A luxury mattress can cost 3,000, which is, but because it had this green aspect to it, it was even more expensive. So I just was wondering, how does it affect construction?
Yeah, I mean, some people do take advantage of it and yeah, raise the prices. So yeah, I can't really speak for them, but there are good alternatives for a double mattress with organic latex and coconut cord, for example, that is under 2 grand. So yeah, I'm actually partnering up with a company at the moment with mattresses and everything for the bedroom, duvets and pillows and everything. So yeah.
Hopefully as once sustainable design also enters more into the mainstream, you're going to start seeing prices come down quite significantly.
Yeah,
I think they have already, but they've probably got a long way to go still.
Yeah, I think also it is about people don't really know where to go or where to find it. So of course, the companies working with it at the moment, they can raise the price.
I believe you have a question.
Yeah, no, mine was also related to cost, because I think, I mean, it's really enlightening how much chemicals and the extent of chemicals that are used in the built environment that we live in, particularly when we're cocooned in that built environment and we sleep in that environment as well. And you know, I know that VOCs are something, they're an invisible poison. So essentially, you know, we're sort of making our places better and more airtight and watertight. But I guess the downside is that we're opening ourselves up to more toxins. And I was just shocked to see the stats that Linda quoted in terms of some of the, I guess, rather obvious impact in terms of asthma, eczema, a lot of these conditions that have accelerated in the last, you know, 30, 40 years. But my question was really to see, and I guess it's a bit like organic food. It starts off really expensive, but you can make little changes like organic milk, which is a big part of our diet. But by switching to organic milk, it can, you know, it starts to make a big difference. So the question really was that, obviously Christian talked about the mattress example, but I was wondering, has Linda put together a comparison of say looking at a property in an area like the one that you've done in Putney versus perhaps a similar design, look and feel, but with the integration of more organic materials and less harmful materials, because that would be interesting. It's not, I guess it's not an answer for now, but it might be something that because, you know, people as developers look at a price per square foot for a certain category of finish, but and you know, it's a fluid number. It's just really what somebody feels comfortable in developing, and they might add in X for fixtures and fittings, or they might add Y. But I think if that could be factored in at an earlier stage, then I think people will make better choices, and it will be a big selling feature. You know, particularly to target markets like young audiences, or people that have kids. You know, you can't put a price on your health in the same way. The same sociodemographic, the groups that we're talking to, sociodemographic groups, are probably already eating organic food. They're buying an apartment in, you know, Zone 2 or Zone 1 London. So they're kind of already converted in a way. I guess it's just for us to justify a bit. So it'd be good to understand that side of things when you perhaps we can take it offline.
Yeah, I think it's about becoming more aware in general. And also, yeah, pesticides in our food is very damaging. So if you can eat as much organic as possible, yes. But when it comes to comparisons, it depends on the materials. But I'm also looking at the development with the developer building in hempcrete instead of concrete. So that is hemp and lime, basically. So yeah, because plasterboards are also full of petrochemicals.
Yeah.
I am mindful of time here, so I think there are a couple extra questions coming Linda's way. Would you mind if we park them and pick them up on the other side of Christian, so that we can give Christian his time, and we can pick up afterwards? So thanks very much, Linda. That was really, really interesting, and obviously there's a lot more to it than just you know, eco-friendly or lowering the carbon footprint. Next up, Christian Turner. Christian owns GCT Marketing, which is a high-end home staging business based, I think, both in London and Manhattan. I could be wrong, but I think sort of transatlantic. Welcome, Christian. Do you want to take it away?
Thank you. Yes. So basically, my background is I studied architecture, graduated with a degree of Bachelor Architecture. I worked in interior design as well for many years in New York and marketing. I basically launched GCT Marketing because I wanted to refine the connection between marketing, selling, and designing within luxury developments. And basically, I wanted to start the conversation with highlighting the difference between staging and interior design. So if anyone wants to jump in and give me, do they know the difference between staging and interior design? Can somebody tell me a difference? Okay, the main difference is staging, you are creating the client. Basically, it's a prospective client that doesn't really exist that you're trying to appeal to, versus interior design, where it's somebody that tells you exactly what they want. And when you're already, as developers, you are creating a target market for your property. So basically, you already have the client in mind, and that should also be the guiding force for your staging. Because as Matthew said, he did all this research for this development to create something unique, beautiful, and bring a story in there. And oftentimes the staging is just doesn't follow through and becomes a very repetitive style that doesn't capture the essence and the time that was spent to create something unique and beautiful. And so basically the staging is the information the developers have them since the beginning, is just sometimes it's not followed through all the way to the end, and that's what gives you that extra character and personality that will make your property sell faster. To market a property for success is basically to know how to captivate your audience, know who you're targeting, their age group, their interests, what they're about, and who their budget, because you don't want to undersell or oversell furniture and design based on the property. Once I finish talking, I'll show you a little bit of my portfolio, but I thought I'd just do like a more conversation for now. The budget that goes for staging is based on basically the value, the budget of your customer and the style that they want. It's the days of basically having placeholders for furniture pieces that go into the place without understanding that somebody that's looking at it is envisioning this as their next home can act as a deterrent for people that are coming in. And one of the things, I'll show you actually something on my screen, if you bear with me 2 seconds. I'll share my screen. Sorry, trying to get this started. Okay, so the idea that behind GCT marketing was to create the environment that you have to make it a sellable place. And a lot of times we found that when staging happens, interior design kind of overcomplicates the process, because by overcrowding the space, you are not letting the buyer envision what they want to create for themselves. So by creating simple, elegant, and key moments in each room, you basically tell the story that needs to be told without overcrowding the space and the design. This is one of the properties that we had early on in New York. So basically this property came into the market at a price of $520,000. It stayed on the market for 6 months and was not selling. They hired us, and once we staged it, so it was within Manhattan, it was a Madison Avenue apartment. It was a very posh, high-end, exclusive building, very hard to get into, but the finishes at the time, as you can see before, weren't there for that kind of crowd. So what we did is basically use a little bit of smoke and mirrors, brought in some quality pieces, nothing overcrowded, and really created an environment that told a story of, maybe it's a bachelor living here, it's a 1-bedroom, and so how he entertains, his little dining area. And there was no construction involved, there was nothing, just paint, some nice furniture pieces, some quality art, and that property actually sold for 30% more within a month after our project was launched. This is another project that we had. This is in New York, where we had a Sky Home duplex. This was on the west side with sunset. So one of the things that you have to remember with staging is your environment. Is the sun setting? Is the view of the sunset? Is there water? That allows you to create some color schemes that aren't too bold, but at the same time can bring the selling points of the space to the forefront of your presentation. This was a property on the west side. So this was more where the sun was at its brightest. So we used more, and it was right by the water. So we used lighter tones, we used blues. We made sure that the space, it was very elongated. So we broke down the space using key furniture pieces, but again, not trying to overcrowd anything. You have to remember that when you're staging, it's about 1, the pictures, and 2, what activities you're going to be holding inside the space to bring in buyers to see it and give them enough room to walk around. Then each room needs to have its own story, its own purpose. A den needs to feel like a den, which is a little bit, can be somber, while the living room is a bit brighter. Again, and the art is always key. Some of the tricks that we use in staging is, instead of, for example, you see we have window treatment. Well, those were very expensive fabrics. So instead of making it a functional window treatment, because you're staging, nobody's living there, it doesn't need to close. So you do panels on each side to give the illusion that these are functioning curtains. But since they will never be closed because you're trying to sell the view, you can actually go further by creating this illusion of something, as opposed to spending so much money on creating something that's functional for nobody that's really living there. So if you'll notice, this is the den on one side, and this is the living room on the other side. So the living room is much more spacious. We realized that this is a big double height ceiling. So we created a panel at the ceiling to have these pendants hanging down. The chairs and the grand piano, even though the chairs face the sofa, they're swivel chairs that can turn and face the piano. So that if we're hosting an event, we did host an event where a pianist was playing, people were able to sit, enjoy, and walk around. And actually this property, which was valued at $24 million, 19 million pounds, sold within a year. This is another den. So this was facing downtown. The buildings had more earth tones to them. So we brought in some wood finishes with a little bit of green to give this space a character that reflects its environment. This is another property where we figured that this is more of a very high-end Upper East Side property. So this was more crystal, very open space, and again, not crowding anything, just keep making key moments in each room for people to have an idea of what can happen, but creating a sense of luxury and experience for them to remember what they've seen. So this is again this is now the dining area. So I show you some living rooms that we did. These are the dining rooms that we did. This was a property that had a private pool. So we basically created a bit of like the pendant is much more informal. This is informal dining. These are ghost chairs that are made of plastic, but again, react well with the pool because everybody's going to be wet, so you don't really want to put a lot of heavy wood and a lot of heavy pieces, so it's a flowing, easy to manage space. This, on the other side, is a more formal dining room. So because this is a very expensive property, we worked with brands like Hermès, Saint Louis to feature some of their more impressive chandelier. This was a new style of chandelier a modern chandelier that they were introducing to the market. And this was a great opportunity to create something that would react well with the buyers and photograph well with the space. So the brands were happy because they were able to showcase their products in action. And the developer was happy because when people walked in, they understood that this property had a certain value to it. And so the selling price was basically, it was within this asking price, and people didn't just walk away from it. There was another property across the hall, because there were two Sky Home duplexes on the floor. The other one didn't sell, even though it was staged, because although they had the furniture pieces, it read more like pieces that were there to hold, to show that a living room could fit, as opposed to showing a lifestyle that you were presenting to your buyer. These are the bedrooms. The master bedroom can, again, doesn't need to be overly complicated. We don't need to overcrowd anything. We just respect your environment, make sure that you accentuate the views, and bring in some key furniture pieces that will highlight and accentuate your what you're selling. If you're selling a style, a look, a feel, then that's what needs to bring in. Like, we didn't have over-the-top lighting fixtures, but if you look in the background, these are Baccarat crystal chandelier, crystal table lamps that add a little bit of character and luxury to a bedroom that is designed with some touches of color and hints of how do you say it? The hints of touches of colors that, sorry, that can elevate the design. This is a girl's bedroom. So what we did is, to keep the budget low, we used paint from one of our sponsors and created a pattern with a pearlescent paint and white to create a girl's bedroom. So the idea is, you tell a story in your staging and you make sure that each room reflects that story. So this is clearly a family that lives here. They're creating they have a daughter in the house. So we made sure that when people walk in, they envision this is somebody that would envision themselves with a family or has a family, and this could be their next home. This is another guest bedroom. Now, we made sure that we brought in the colors of the river into the space with the accessories. We brought in some touches of metal to bring some shine and some kind of flair into the space so it doesn't just fall flat. And again, if you look at the background, the curtains look real, but they're just smoke and mirrors. They're basically just panels put there to give the illusion of a design when it's just a presentation for selling purposes. This is, again, a guest bedroom that we did. And we worked with one brand. This was a Wash-Bois bed, and that's the only thing that we put in the bedroom with the curtains. So it's, again, not about putting too much furniture in there. It's just about creating the right feel for the room and leaving it at that, and let the buyer have a chance to add what they want to it. These are some of the projects that we did in the past. We worked on duplexes, penthouses, a small one bedroom, and a rental loft in Tribeca. These are some of the magazines that we were featured in. Some of the things that we did that were really interesting was we partner with magazines ahead of time of our projects. And because we're bringing in key brands and designers and sponsors, we can automatically create a marketing concept and something to roll out once the project is finished and feature it. And that brought a lot of attention. In fact, one of our projects within a year brought 1,000 foot traffic through all our events and promotion that we brought on. And this is me in the formal dining room of our last project. And as you can see, it's not overbearing, but yet we always want to add a little bit of touch of color, of character into the rooms, so that when people see, because everybody's buying online now, and before they get to see the property, they have to be able to be attracted through the thumbnails and the pictures. So we always feel that adding a little bit of color, a little touch of something different it brings in the more clicks, more questions, more viewers, and it eventually sells faster. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions, anyone? Thanks, Christian. That was really interesting. Some of those properties were amazing. Wow, there's a couple. I'll start with Chris. Chris, you were first.
So as regards the way that you dress the rooms, luxury has many guises depending on what region you're in. Have you noticed a flex between the kind of the North American market versus the European market? And obviously with London attracting kind of Middle East Asia for the kind of upscale development, have you noticed the way that you dress properties evolves and has to change to match that? Well,
yes. I mean, it has to evolve based on your market, and you're absolutely right. So you definitely get different brands. Like, for example, we have a project that we're rolling out for 2021, and it involves different brands like Bentley Home and Fendi Casa to attract that market. And one of the things I want to hit on is when you budget for staging, and let's say I'm going to throw a number, I'm not saying it's that, but I'm saying if you have a budget for 50,000 to stage a property, right? Well, the way that we go about it is that technically that's because it's all promotional, that 50,000 should really represent a value of furniture of maybe 150 to 200,000 within the space. Because like you said, the people that are going to be looking at it will be interested in not only acquiring the space, but also learning more about the brands, and giving that exposure to everybody means that there is value in that. And that budget should be 3x basically in value that you're showcasing.
Who's next? I think you put your hand up, yeah?
Yeah, mine was actually just a more generic point in terms of staging some of the luxury properties. How do you ensure it appeals to the various groups? For example, if in London you might be looking at the North American market, European market, and Asian market, but to fuse, I know most of the developers that I know, they sort of aim for a very, very specific target market, which is normally dictated by the location, depending on where they are in zone 1. But I think now, with things being a bit more unsettled, let's say, it's a lot more difficult. So I'll give an example. So when my colleague was doing something for the American market, he would ensure there was always air conditioning, and same with the Middle Eastern market, which would take away space, head height or floor space, but they'd finish it quite appropriately. Now, post-COVID, we don't really know where the super prime customers are going to be coming from. So I was just wondering how you would kind of stage something, knowing that it's more perhaps varied.
Can you repeat? You have two questions.
Yeah, so the last part was really, how would you ensure that you would stage it so that you are catering for a wider market rather than a specific market?
Oh, that's a very good question. I guess one of the things that we do is our designs are never really super targeted. It's more about what the building has evolved into, because there's a lobby, there's a elevator, entryway, everything has been designed with marble, with brass, or gold finishes and things like that, which accentuate the style. So one thing that we do is that we follow through with the level that the building has brought in, and we drive the idea through. We don't just have a cookie cutter design. We work with the developer to finish the story successfully.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Simon Miri is on the call. Hi, Simon. You've posted something quite interesting in the chat. I don't know if you want to talk us through that.
Yeah, it's something that hijacks people. It catches them unawares. Broadly speaking, on a new build or a conversion, we're looking at a zero VAT or a 5% VAT, but it doesn't apply to fixtures and fittings, and it doesn't really apply to show home dressing. So broadly, I think it's important that, we've had some cracking presentations today, but it could well be that the cost is either slightly more than the client's expecting because it's not VAT recoverable, or perhaps there might be a slight advantage that the developer isn't aware that might soften the blow slightly. And I'm sure one of the biggest hurdles you've got to get is persuading people that the value is there. And I think being able to absolutely nail down the price, what we don't want is someone suddenly realizing they've committed to a cracking design and a cracking concept to then find that the final price is wrong. It just undermines the credibility. So whether it's good news or bad news, I think it's important that when these guys are pitching to developer, that the real cost is presented. It's going to be pretty embarrassing if you're then challenged that how come you didn't know that there's such a catastrophic difference. But broadly speaking, all of this items that turn a bare naked development into a personalized story, I think will have a VAT burden that perhaps the developer won't be aware of. And I think not telling him may not enamor you for the next time round. So it's just being aware, really.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we do is that not everything is purchased by the developer. It's not just a bill that we give. We're creating almost an event space. And so the piano, for example, is not purchased. The piano is there because the brand wants the exposure that we're creating through our marketing initiatives. The light fixtures, yes, the VAT would be astronomical. That chandelier in the living room was at what, 30,000? So the developer is not going to buy it, but it can be displayed prominently because the brands want to have association with certain visuals.
This is the ridiculous thing about VAT, is that chandelier is VAT recoverable. We've got a client, French guy, he's convinced customers are going to come and bang on his door in the dead of night because he bought a chandelier that's more art than light. Value's got nothing to do with it. So there are some items where perhaps there is an advantage in purchasing rather than hiring. And it's just trying to make sure that where there is an advantage like that, that might make it just a little bit easier for you to make that pitch. I think sometimes it's important you know which way.
Yeah. That sounds really interesting. Yes, and I would love to discuss that with you a bit further.
Yeah. Well, look, any questions like that, you know, it takes 2 seconds to ask and 2 seconds to answer. So for any of you listening here, I'm always happy to quickly give you an answer on things like that.
Thanks, Simon.
Pleasure.
Really good advice. Right. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. I appreciate that this has run over by 20 minutes. Thanks very much, Christian, for your presentation. Really interesting stuff. We are going to stay around, stay on the Zoom for, I'd say, probably about another 10 minutes. If there are any questions, I know there were a couple more, but I do appreciate if some of you do need to dash, you're more than welcome to now. If you can all just join me in a big thank you to Christian, to Matteo, and to Linda for their presentations. Really good. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Dara.
Thank you.
Has he gone? No, Dara's there. Dara, I saw you had your hand up. I don't know if you want to.
Thank you. I've got to go.
Question.
Who has a question?
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, it was well done to everybody, by the way. Really good presentations from everybody. Really insightful. And I just had a question for Linda, actually, in regards to her presentation. So I really like that approach as far as a holistic approach, thinking about your environment, how that impacts you, not just from a energy point of view, but also from a well-being point of view. Regarding the kind of volatile organic compounds like VOC stuff and paint and everything, have you done much work with BREEAM assessors in the past? Because that could be a certification that could possibly tick a lot of boxes for you if you're also doing any type of BREEAM certification, because I know they've got lots of various stages about checking these kind of volatile compounds in stuff like paint and plasterboard, etc. So just wondering if that's something you've ever looked into. No,
not that one specifically, no. Myself, I'm doing the WELL certification, and also, yeah, with paint. Yeah, I know personally what to look for. I'm not going to test it myself, but yeah, thanks. That can be a good thing to look into.
It might be, yeah, even if you partnered up with a BREEAM assessor, if this is kind of your unique selling point, if you could back that up with some type of just maybe a pointer or something to think about.
Yeah, thanks.
Great, that was it. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I think I was on mute. Thank you, Dara. Anybody else? Anybody else have any questions, comments? No. Thanks, guys. That was really good. Really, really impressive. I know it was different, and I mean, you know, I think it delivered a lot of value. Quite interesting to hear the different perspectives. I was amazed to hear, Linda, how much in your household is actually really bad for you. That's a bit of a learning. So yeah, is there anything else that anybody would like to add?
I'd like to add one last thing.
Go for it.
One of the key parts in staging the way we do is also about entertaining the buyers and creating specific events around the design. So once you know who your buyer is, then just like Linda, for example, she has a whole holistic approach to design. Well, if she's working in a building, then you know people that are coming in will be into this idea. So events around this type of idea, this type of a strategy, help strengthen the selling process. So whenever you're marketing, think about your buyer and in the setting that you're creating, in the story that you're creating. And events are very important. I'm sure we're going to get back to doing them soon, hopefully, because I can't do the Zoom thing. But yeah,
Zoomed out.
Yeah, I think that idea is brilliant, Christian, with entertainment and really creating that story. And I'm from Scandinavia, so that is what we used to do in Scandinavia as well. So I got quite shocked how many developers are doing it here in London. But yeah, so I think that is definitely something that's going to be important in order to sell. Definitely.
I suppose it's kind of sort of sailing close to the sun of experiential marketing, isn't it? I mean, Christian, if you're bringing in some really, really good brands as part of the experience of showcasing a property, prospective buyers are beginning to interact with a series of experiences, not necessarily just a property, just the bricks and mortar. That's really
exactly, and you create an environment of a soft sell, which make people not even realize that you're actually selling them the space by creating something exceptional. Like, for example, when we had that Steinway piano featured, well, coming in for a recital and people watching the sunset with a glass of champagne and really taking in the views and the space, the music, people kept talking about it. And that's one of the reasons why, even though the market was kind of struggling at the time, they were able to sell this property at that value.
Yeah,
well, definitely, and that's something we worked on for Joe, together with Ocean Bathrooms as well, to kind of not sell the space, but create more of an experience for the clients, and they can come in and have a glass or something, and yeah, it's going to be easier to sell in that way, definitely.
Drinking always helps.
Hi, Joe. All good?
Yeah, thank you. You?
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Got my largest ever project confirmed. Should be getting ordered this week, which would be nice. 300 rooms.
Brilliant. Congratulations. That's all. How many rooms?
300.
Wow. Really nice. Congrats.
Is that Pat's house?
Yeah, that's what he's taken delivery. That's why he's not here.
His second house.
Is it a hotel? Sounds like
no, it's apartments.
Oh, well, nice.
Yeah, so do you know Brigade Court down on the South Bank?
Okay.
The old Brigade fire station.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That's near where my son lives. I'd love to see inside that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been working on it for nearly 2 years.
Well done.
So when it's complete, can we have an exclusive for Qandor magazine and a case study, please?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool, guys. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we can let everybody go. Thanks again, Linda, Christian, Matteo. Really, really nice. Have a good afternoon, everyone.